I'm in the bustling capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta. Join me as I explore this bustling metropolis of approximately 20 million people. Let's get stuck in. You may wonder what I'm doing in Jakarta. Well, I'm actually on my way somewhere else. I'm transiting through Jakarta just for the day, and then I'm taking a flight to Japan. I'm having a little bit of a break from YouTube for the next couple of weeks. I might make a video or two in Japan, I'm not sure yet. But I thought while I'm coming through Jakarta, it's a great opportunity to have a bit of a walk around in a city that I have a love-hate relationship with. I actually quite like Jakarta, but it's a difficult city to really get around. So I'm going to explore it a little bit and show you what I love about it, show you what I don't like so much. One of the things about Jakarta is it's one of these destinations that you go to that requires active participation. You can't just let it wash over you, because I find that it sometimes can feel like it's swallowing you up. You need to put some work in to get the most out of it. And I love the buildings here in Jakarta as well, because there are so many old buildings that are still very well maintained. And this is a classic example of one of them. It's called Gedung Kesenian Jakarta. It's the Jakarta Art Building, and it's like a theatre. And they still put performances on in this place today. It's an early 1900s building, absolutely beautiful in styling. Look at those massive shutters on the outside. Just a wonderful building. And in this area in particular that I'm at right now, there are lots of buildings that are of that sort of age as well. One of the things that most people don't like about Jakarta is how busy it is and how much traffic there is. And I don't like that either. I really don't like it. It's actually the biggest negative of the place. But if you can sort of get past that a little bit, you can start to enjoy it a little bit. And what that requires is a little bit of planning, a little bit more. Well, you can't just sort of go out and walk around. You really should do a bit of research into where you want to go and sort of pick your spots and get motorbikes or cars to take you around to the different spots, have a walk around those particular areas, because sometimes the distances between areas might be quite a few kilometres and it might be unpleasant to sort of walk between them. So that there is a classic example of what I'm talking about. The cars are at a standstill and have been for a good 10 minutes now since I arrived in this particular area. And Jakarta is like this at any time of day. You can be stuck like this in the middle of the night. In fact, I have been stuck like this at midnight before. And it's not always absolutely terrible, but it often is. So it's hard to predict how long it's going to take to get from one place to another. So for example, from here where I am in the centre of Jakarta to the airport, it can be really quick sometimes, but other times it can take a couple of hours. So you always need to sort of factor in the traffic situation, and you may need to leave earlier for any appointment that you have. And a classic thing that a lot of Jakartans will do is that when they're meeting up with friends, they will always say, when they're late, because Jakartans are always late, they will always say, I got stuck in traffic. And you know what? It's usually true, but not always. So now I'm currently walking down to a place called the Kementerian Keuangan. It's a finance ministry. Now you can see the building there, an old colonial building that has been used through different periods of Indonesia, from when the Dutch were in charge and the Japanese used it for a while. Another one of these sort of early 1900s style buildings, and now obviously the Indonesian government uses it for their finance ministry as well. It's actually part of a complex of buildings in this area that are just those classic old style Dutch buildings. They are just beautiful buildings, and they've been maintained so well. You know, in a lot of countries we knock down old buildings after we think they're not really suitable anymore for the current purposes. But in this case, they've been able to renovate them, keep them up to standard, and keep part of Indonesia's heritage intact, even though it's a part of Indonesia's past which is not too pleasant. Look at that building, absolutely. This is still part of that same complex, the finance ministry. Look at it, just a beautiful building. I can't get in there, and I don't want to sort of be too sort of intrusive, otherwise they'll think I'm some sort of spy or something like that. But it's just sort of giving you a first taste of what things are like here in Jakarta. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some really beautiful parts to it as well. As a massive storm threatens to roll in, I'm in Banteng Park, which is straight across from the Kementerian Keuangan, and you can see that big statue over there. That statue is the West Irian Liberation Statue. It's a statue built under the direction of Sukarno, Indonesia's first president. And he wanted to have a statue which represents the freedom which the West Papua people got when Indonesia liberated them from the Dutch. Because the history of... Hello, how are you going? Because the history of West Papua obviously is quite complicated and very controversial, and I won't get into the politics of it now because I think I won't do it any justice at all. But the view of Indonesia was that because there was a large part of Southeast Asia controlled by the Dutch, that when Indonesia got its independence, all of that land should have been transferred to it. And what happened at independence, Indonesia did not get West Papua. They were still controlled by the Dutch. But the Indonesians always claimed, hey, that's part of our land because the Dutch had part of that as part of their Dutch East Indies. Hello. Hello. And so what happened in the end was that there was some negotiation, there was some argy-bargy, and then West Papua was incorporated into Greater Indonesia in the 60s. And that's the statue there. It's quite magnificent. That storm is looking really threatening, really threatening. Hey.
Jadi saya Mister.
Kelas berapa? Kelas berapa?
7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9. Kelas 9.
9.
Okay.
Dijek.
Oh God. Funny kids in the 9th grade smoking like it's nothing. He offered me a cigarette as well. I'm just walking up the road now to a cathedral, a really important cathedral in Jakarta. They actually just call it cathedral, even though it's got a really long official name. If you say the word cathedral, everyone knows what you're talking about in Jakarta. And then on the other side of the road is the main mosque in the whole of Jakarta and the whole of Indonesia. It's called Masjid Istiqlal. And both of these buildings are absolutely famous and important in the whole of Indonesia. And I'll tell you why. So this is the cathedral. Look at it. Isn't it absolutely wonderful? This was built in 1901 and is still in active use today. They have ceremonies all the time. I think there might be a wedding going on right now, so I don't know if I can get inside. But I'll try. Beautiful, isn't it? The thing about this place is that because it's over the road from the main mosque as well, some people think, oh, that might cause some sort of conflict. But they're really smart here in Jakarta. What they've done is that on the special occasions of each religion, for example, Christmas, or in Ramadan, or at the end of Ramadan, at Eid al-Fitr, the people of the congregation of the church will go and help the Muslim people with their parking and so forth, and vice versa. The Muslim people will come over at Christmas time and help with parking and allow each other to park in each other's parking spots, and just to really extend a hand to say, hey, we both understand each other and we have no ill feelings towards one another. It's just one of these really nice things that goes on here at both of these places. So that's Masjid Istiqlal. It was designed in the 1960s and finally completed in the 1970s. So the styling is in that very unique 1960s/70s style, late 60s. Well, it's probably designed in the early 60s, and you can see it there. It's not a traditional styled mosque, at the time considered to be ultra modern. Because this is quite a busy area with pedestrian traffic and people coming and going from the mosque and the cathedral, you'll find there are a lot of street food sellers here as well. So there are these dudes here. He's selling rujak. Rujak ya pak? Yeah, this is rujak. So it's all the fruits, and then they put a bit of tamarind on there, and then they'll put a bit of chili on there. So you have this chili sour fruit salad type deal. You can actually get rujak in Sanur in Bali from a place not far from where I live. Rujak is a classic Indonesian dish, and it's not to everyone's liking. Like I find the flavours of rujak for my palate to be just too intense. I mean, they're pleasant flavours, just the sourness and the spiciness is just amped up to the max, you know. I don't really deal with it that well. We've got a stampede for the bus, all the school kids going for the bus here. I'll try and get across the road, it's always pretty dizzy. Hello, makasih pa! Always difficult to get across the road here. You've got to be a little bit nimble and you've got to have eyes in the back of your head as well. The thing about Jakarta is that in many ways it represents Indonesia totally, and in some other ways, quite ironically, it feels totally different as well. And it's difficult to get your head around because when I come to Jakarta, I feel modernity, so much wealth that I don't feel in much of the rest of Indonesia. But the people at heart are the same people. Even when they're wealthy, they still like to go and eat at the carts and have traditional food. They haven't just gotten wealthy and then they're starting to eat steaks every day. No, they're down at the food cart getting a 10,000 rupiah nasi goreng or something. People in Indonesia are still Indonesian despite becoming modern and wealthy. And Jakarta's a really good symbol of that fact. And what's happened in Jakarta over especially the last 20 years is that the middle class has grown really large. And we do hear that from time to time, and it does sound like a bit of a cliche. But what that really means is there are people who are earning, and I'm talking millions of people in Jakarta who are earning enough money these days to be able to go on holidays to Japan, maybe once a year, buy iPhones. They're not rich, but they're living a pretty good life. They've got good jobs in a bank or in an insurance office or a startup or an IT firm. You know, there are people earning good money here. Now that's not to dismiss the fact there is a lot of poverty here as well, because there are a lot of poor people here as well. But it's, you know, I just sort of want to get the message across that it's really developing fast, and so much faster and bigger than any other place in Indonesia. It is absolutely incredible to witness with your own eyes. Earlier I talked about how Jakarta is one of these places that you can't just go and be passive in. It's not like in Bali where you roll up, go into your resort, sit back and relax, have a few beers and life is good. Jakarta is not that sort of place, and it can really grind people to the ground. Some people really hate Jakarta, they hate it. And it's because they're finding it difficult to get beneath the skin of the place. And I understand it because my surface reaction to Jakarta is that it's not a very nice place. But when you start walking around the streets, getting into the back alleyways, even in some of these more busy areas, you do get a sense of what Jakarta's really like. And I find it quite interesting. And I feel completely comfortable here. Another interesting building, this time it's called Gedung Pancasila. That is a fascinating building, built in the 1830s, would you believe? It now functions as part of the Kementerian Luar Negeri, or the Foreign Ministry. But look at it, I mean, look at that straight up there, straight through that fence. I mean, isn't it just pretty as a picture? And I'm just really glad they've preserved it. I mean, it's not another one of these buildings that has to be preserved, and they've done it just so well. The other thing about Jakarta is that it really, for me, is the gateway to the rest of Java and the rest of Indonesia. Often, people will come to Jakarta to start their trip across Java. And the reason they do that is because it's so well connected to the rest of the island. So there are rail lines coming out of Jakarta that go all across the island. You can actually catch a train, or a couple of trains. There is a train line that goes from Jakarta all the way to Bali. So right to the city of Banyuwangi, which is just across the water from Bali. Like, it's absolutely incredible how far you can go on the trains, and they are really good, really easy to use, just comfortable. They take a long time because Java is big, but they're just fantastic. And you know, you can make up a little journey. Say if you wanted to go to Java for a week, like, you'd easily sort of nick across Java over the course of a week or 2 weeks and have a really good time. You do, again, need to do your research, because normally you're stopping off in big cities, and big cities in Indonesia are tough going. You need to know what you're doing. Getting a guide when you get there, or going on walking tours, is a really good way to sort of dig beneath the surface a little bit, or even do your own research online. And if you've got a bit of an adventurous spirit and you like to get out there and explore, That's absolutely perfect. You don't just want to get there, sit in your hotel room and say, what am I going to do? Because you're going to hate it. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and now it's gotten so dark because of that massive storm cloud that's come overhead. I've taken my sunglasses off. They're different ones if you hadn't noticed. They're the ones I'm traveling with at the moment. Different hat as well, a more sort of travel-friendly hat. A little bit about my trip that I'm on. I'm going to Japan for a couple of weeks and I sort of thought I'd take that as an opportunity, have a bit of a break from YouTube, refresh a little bit, because I've been putting a bit of hard work into these videos over the past couple of years really. And what you'll find is that I might do 1 or 2 videos from Japan. I'm going to try not to, but the desire's there. I've got this real hankering to share what's out there, but I've got to have a rest as well. So I'll see what happens. Now this guy is selling gorengan. All the gorengan. He's got everything going on there. You've got tempeh, you've got tahu, you've got veggie fritters in there. You've got bananas in there as well. I think he had fried cassava in there. All very interesting snack foods. Like, I'm a bit of a sucker for fried food. Like, I love it. Hey, look at this river here. I came across this bridge exactly, and I've only done it once in the past 15 years. So 15 years ago I came across this river and that was a full rubbish, like you couldn't see water, it was just all rubbish. And now it's been cleaned up. That's pretty cool, isn't it? The rain's just starting to come down now, I'm gonna get done. So this is the Indonesian Protestant Church's Emmanuel building, or church. A really interesting church built in the 1830s, and look at that, the massive big shutters on there. I can't get inside at the moment, I'm not allowed in, but it's still an active church. And look at that, isn't it beautiful? It's a round one, so I don't know why, but it's a round styling, and you can see there, to have that built so long ago is just absolutely incredible. Someone getting a selfie in front of there. Hello. Hello. Look at that, beautiful, isn't that? Isn't that beautiful? I just love the styling of these old buildings, and this one in particular is just fantastic. Again, massive props to the Indonesians for keeping this place so well preserved. You know, after colonialism, it could be really tempting to tear down all references to the previous regime, of which this is one of them. But they haven't done it, they've kept it, and it just looks magnificent. Look at it. Look at that. Interestingly, this particular church is just across the road from what most people would say is Indonesia's most important train station. It's called Gambir, and Gambir is where most of the long distance trains from Jakarta go from. There is another train station where there are long distance trains from as well, but this is the big one. This is the one that most people will visit when they're trying to get out of Jakarta and onto their next destination in Java somewhere. So if you're ever at Gambir, make sure you just pop across the road to that church, because like that is Gambir, that's the church. Like, there's no excuse. The good thing about the area around Gambir is there's actually a lot of things to see and do. There's a range of museums. There's all those old buildings I just showed you there, which I'm not even sure if they're on the main tourist trail. I mean, I did see a couple of foreigners there, but they're not like that popular. And then of course, there is a place called Monas, the National Monument of Indonesia, which I think is sort of the focal point of the whole city. Worth a visit. Let's go and have a look. The public transport situation here in Jakarta is actually quite good. It's complicated though. If you're not living here, it's very difficult to know how to catch most of the public transport. But they do have an MRT, which is world class, honestly world class, but it doesn't go very many places. So if you're going from one place that's on the MRT to another place that's on the MRT, yeah, useful, but if not, not so useful. They have this thing called the Trans-Jakarta Bus Network, and it's just basically a bus system, but the buses have priority lanes. So they skip all the traffic jams, unless naughty people block the lanes because they want to skip the traffic as well, but they're not supposed to. There are mini buses, there are angkots, and then the latest thing that people have been using a lot of is motorcycle taxis. For the past 10, 15 years, motorcycle taxis have really added to the mobility of people who are getting from train stations to their workplace, rather than catching a minibus that might go around multiple places. They'll just jump on a motorbike. Because people have enough money now, generally, if they're working in an office, to catch these motorbikes between their office and their transport point. So the rain's coming down now. I'm just hiding. I'm under a bridge, and I've got a bunch of other people here as well, hiding as well. Even the motorbike drivers are hiding here as well. No one's got raincoats. A few other people out there do, but we don't, so we're just waiting here for that rain to pass. I was just thinking about that church back there and how surprised I was when I found out how many Christians and Catholics there were in Indonesia. We think of Indonesia as a Muslim majority nation, which it is, but there are a lot of Christians and Catholics here as well, numbering around 35 to 40 million people who are Christian or Catholic, which is an incredible number, more than the population of the whole of Australia. And of course, the Hindus are around the 5 million mark. There are 5 or 6 main religions or official religions in Indonesia. And it gets put on your national identity card. So for example, you cannot be Jewish here. Like, well, you could be, but you've got to lie and call yourself something else, which sometimes happens for some weird religions. And for example, if you are not religious, let's say you're an atheist, well, you still have to put a religion down, one of the 5 or 6 main religions. Now, what this means is that if you want to get married, and you want to get married to someone who's a different religion to what your identity card says, that can be problematic. It can be really problematic. Even if you're not religious, but let's say your identity card says you're Christian, and you wanted to marry another person who's not religious, and their identity card says they're Muslim, well, you can't, more or less. But there are ways around it, and people do find ways around it. They'll go overseas, for example, get married overseas where it's allowed, and come back to Indonesia and get it recognised. There's a lot of those sorts of cases, but if you don't have money, it can be quite problematic, and you need to convert your religion to sort of make it happen. This is the National Monument of Indonesia. It's about 130 metres high, and some people think it, they don't really like the look of it, but when you understand what it's really supposed to be about, you get an idea about why it looks the way it does. So at the top there is a flame, which is gold leaf, about 50 kilograms of gold on that thing these days. But it's actually supposed to represent a linga and a yoni from the old Hindu part of Indonesia. So even though Indonesia is a majority Muslim country these days, up until the 1500s, it was a majority Hindu country. And that's why Bali is Hindu these days. But for over 1,000 years, Hinduism really reigned supreme. And that source of Hinduism and that ancient stuff that goes along with it still exists in Indonesia today. There's a lot of Sanskrit words which are part of Indonesian language. And a lot of the history and the cultural norms actually come from that Hindu aspect of Indonesia. It's quite magnificent, to be honest. It was, I think Sukarno decided to do it in the early 1960s, and he got toppled. And by the time this was made, he was already gone. It was another dude. Hello, how are you?
YouTuber?
No. What is this plant on your, what is that? Tanaman apa yang ini?
Make video with me.
Why?
What your channel? What your channel?
Sanur Diaries.
Sanur Bali?
Yeah, betul sekali.
Yeah, serious?
Yeah.
Oh, you make vlog?
Yeah.
Video?
Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm local here.
Jakarta. Batawi?
Jogja and Jakarta.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe want to make video, I can many good spot for you.
No, it's okay.
But I'm tour guide here.
No, it's okay. I'm just jalan-jalan saja.
Okay, where you come from?
It's from Australia.
Oh yeah, network tetangga.
Yeah, betul sekali. This actual area is called Merdeka Square. What's interesting about this place is it's where a lot of very big things in Indonesian history have happened, from the independence movement itself right through to massive protests which have toppled governments, which have caused insurrections, which have caused social divisions. A few years ago there was a massive issue where the governor of Jakarta, a Chinese Indonesian man, the right-hand man of the previous governor who was very popular, Joko Widodo, who went on to become president. Well, the Chinese Indonesian governor of Jakarta, a Christian man, was caught up in, well, something that just spiraled out of control. He said something which was taken by social media and blown up, and actually someone was charged, a citizen was charged for manipulating what this guy said and spreading it, actually. But it didn't matter. There were mass protests, and the Jakarta governor was actually put in jail. And politics in Indonesia is a brutal, brutal business, but a lot of politics happens in this square. When things are going down, they often go down in Merdeka Square. In this square at the time, there were estimated between 500,000 and 1 million people protesting. It got pretty serious. I remember I was in Jakarta on one of those days, I think, and it got a little bit hairy. I mean, I wasn't scared, but Susan had encountered some of the protests in 1998 when the old regime fell. And things sort of started to escalate a little bit. It got quite tense. And people were a little bit concerned that if things spiraled out of control, you could have a situation like in 1998 when there were mass riots and then total social chaos and disorder, murders, rapes, robbery, looting, everything. It was just a complete breakdown in 98. It didn't get to that in 2016 when these mass rallies happened, but there was a bit of a fear from some members of the community that things could get out of control. Luckily it didn't. Surrounding the Merdeka Square, there are lots of important buildings like the Constitutional Court, the Kementerian for Komunikasi and digital communication. The National Library of Indonesia is over there. There's lots of different buildings. And there are a few museums as well that are around here that are worth having a look at as well. For some reason, they've got some music blaring out of the National Monument at the moment. I'm not sure what it represents, but it sounds old, and I reckon it might have something to do with the independence movement. Oh, I probably should have known that. It's actually the national anthem of Indonesia. I didn't understand the intro they got, but now I hear it, yeah. National anthem of Indonesia. Am I supposed to salute? I don't know. I love it. I actually love Jakarta in some ways. Like, I don't love it like totally, like some parts of it I don't like, but I really enjoy being here. I enjoy sort of the grittiness of it. There's something quite nice about that. I wouldn't mind exploring this a little bit further, you know, going for walks around the neighbourhoods and so forth. The different parts of Jakarta, because it's so massive. You know, I've just had a little snippet of Jakarta here, but there's some other areas which are beautiful as well, which I've explored before. Some other areas I've never explored, and getting into the alleyways and back streets of Jakarta is what it's all about. Thanks for coming along for the ride today on this small journey through Jakarta, and thank you to all the members who have recently joined up. It's your support that allows me to keep making videos like this. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with all things Indonesia. I'll catch you next time, and sampai jumpa.